In a cold military prison cell, under flickering fluorescent lights, a man in an orange jumpsuit sat silently, his hands shaking, his eyes hollow, counting the final hours of his life. Tomorrow was his execution, but before he died, Commander Ethan Cole asked for one final request, a request that shocked every officer who heard it. He didn't ask for food. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't ask for freedom. He asked to see his canine partner one last time. Titan, his retired Navy SEAL combat dog. The guards expected an emotional reunion. But when Titan entered the room, everything changed. Instead of running to his master, the German Shepherd began barking desperately, scratching at the floor, circling the room. Moments later, a truth exploded, one that shook the entire military justice system. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment your city below. Let's see how far this story travels. Now, let's continue. The prison woke before dawn. Long before the sun touched the razor-wired walls of Fort Leavenworth Military Prison, a cold, heavy silence clung to the hallways. The kind of silence that only appeared on execution days. Even the guards, men hardened by years of routine and violence, moved differently today. Their boots echoed against the concrete floor with a rhythm that sounded like a countdown. At the far end of death row sat a man whose story had once been celebrated across the nation. Commander Ethan Cole, former Navy SEAL, former K-9 handler, former hero, now nothing more than an inmate in an orange jumpsuit, waiting for the final knock on his cell door. But Ethan wasn't pacing. He wasn't crying. He wasn't begging for mercy. He was sitting calmly on the edge of his bed, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly, as if he was praying without moving his lips. The guards watching from the other side of the bars exchanged uneasy glances. "Never seen one this calm," one muttered. "Yeah," the other whispered back. "Makes it worse somehow." Ethan heard every word, but he didn't react. His mind was somewhere else. Back to a time before the prison bars. Before the handcuffs, before the trial that destroyed his life. A time when he still wore the trident. A time when a German shepherd named Titan was always by his side. His partner, his shadow, his only family. A soft buzz filled the hallway as the main steel door unlocked. Every guard straightened. Warden Mitchell stepped inside with a clipboard in hand, his face unreadable. Two chaplains followed behind him, along with a military psychologist. Standard protocol. The final confirmation. The final walk. Commander Ethan Cole. The warden's voice was firm, but not unkind. "You will be escorted to the chamber in approximately 2 hours. If you have any final requests beyond the one already granted, now is the time." Ethan lifted his head slowly. His eyes, tired, hollow, but strangely peaceful, met the warden's. "No," he answered. "Just the one." The warden nodded. He already knew the request. Everyone did. It had been the subject of whispers for a week. Ethan's last wish before execution was to see his retired canine partner one final time. Many guards didn't understand it. Some thought it was sentimental nonsense. Others thought it was strange that a man condemned for killing a fellow SEAL would want to see the very animal who had witnessed the crime. But Ethan's request had been approved. Titan had been tracked down, retired, living with a different handler now. Arrangements had been made. The warden cleared his throat. "They're bringing him in shortly. You'll see him before the procedure begins." Ethan closed his eyes briefly. Relief washed through him like a wave he'd been holding back for years. "Thank you," he whispered. As the officials turned to leave, the guards began prepping the hallway, removing obstacles, unlocking doors, positioning themselves for control. The weight of the moment grew heavier with each passing second. Outside the prison walls, a black military vehicle was already approaching, carrying the dog Ethan had once trusted with his life. Inside the cell, Ethan inhaled deeply. Today might be the day he died. But it was also the first time in 4 years he felt alive. Before Commander Ethan Cole became inmate number 847-2019, he was a name spoken with pride in every special operations unit across the military. For nearly 8 years, he and his canine partner Titan had been an unbeatable team, tracking high-value targets, locating IEDs, detecting enemy ambushes before they happened. Their bond was legendary. Operators admired it. Enemies feared it. But all of that ended on a single night. A night the world believed Ethan had snapped. The official story spread like wildfire. Commander Ethan Cole murdered a fellow SEAL during a classified operation in Afghanistan. Shot Petty Officer James Marsh at close range. No witnesses except the dog. No warning. And when the extraction team arrived, Ethan was kneeling beside the fallen operator, blood on his hands, his weapon still warm. The media tore him apart. Headlines labeled him everything from a fallen hero to a cold-blooded traitor. Protesters filled the streets demanding justice. His trident was stripped from him before he even had a chance to speak. But the part that disturbed people the most, the detail that made his guilt seem undeniable, was Titan. The dog had been found standing over Marsh's body, barking frantically at Ethan as operators pulled him away. To everyone watching, it looked like the loyal canine was accusing his own handler. The prosecution used that image relentlessly. If the dog didn't trust him, they argued, why should any of us? Ethan, however, maintained his innocence. From the moment of his arrest to the moment of his conviction, he repeated the same words. I didn't kill him. Someone else was there. Titan saw it. But no one believed him. There were no security cameras in that compound. No additional footprints. No fingerprints except Ethan's and the victim's. The ballistics matched Ethan's weapon. Titan couldn't testify. The case felt ironclad. Even Titan was taken away and reassigned, forced into retirement shortly after. The truth was buried under layers of politics and pressure. The Navy needed someone to blame, someone to satisfy the public. Ethan became that someone. The trial lasted only 2 weeks. The jury delivered the verdict in less than 4 hours. Guilty. Life sentence. Until Marsh's family demanded the death penalty, claiming Ethan's betrayal deserved the harshest punishment the law allowed. Ethan accepted it quietly. He didn't cry. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. Not because he was guilty, but because he had lost the only thing he truly cared about. His partner. And now, 4 years later, on the eve of his execution, the same dog, the one who barked at him that night, was on his way to the prison. The past was finally coming back. And Ethan knew one thing with absolute certainty. The truth wouldn't stay buried forever. The steel door at the end of the corridor buzzed open. Ethan's heart stopped. Footsteps, multiple sets, and then a sound he would recognize anywhere. The soft clicking of claws against concrete. Titan. Ethan stood slowly. His legs trembled. 4 years. 4 years since he'd seen those brown eyes. 4 years since he'd felt that warm fur against his hand. 4 years of wondering if Titan had forgotten him. The procession appeared. 2 handlers, 3 guards, and between them, walking with the careful grace of an aging warrior, was Titan. 9 years old now, gray around the muzzle, moving slower than Ethan remembered. But those eyes were exactly the same. Titan. Ethan's voice cracked. The dog's ears perked up. His body stiffened. For a moment, nothing happened. The handlers held the leash tight. The guards watched with hands on their weapons. Everyone expected something. A lunge, a bark, an attack. Instead, Titan did something no one anticipated. He sat down, right in the middle of the corridor, and refused to move. "What the hell?" one of the handlers muttered. He pulled the leash. Titan didn't budge. "Come on, boy, let's go." Nothing. The dog's eyes were fixed on Ethan, but he wasn't moving forward. He wasn't moving at all. "What's wrong with him?" a guard asked. Ethan stepped closer to the bars. "Titan, it's me, boy. It's okay." At the sound of Ethan's voice, something shifted in the dog's posture. His nose twitched. His head turned slightly. And then he started to growl. Low. Deep. Not at Ethan. At the wall beside him. "What the?" the handler whispered. Titan rose to his feet. His growl intensified. He began pacing toward Ethan's cell, but his attention wasn't on his former partner. It was on the corner. A specific spot on the floor, near the ventilation grate. Titan began scratching at the concrete, whining, then barking. The kind of bark Ethan knew all too well. The alert. The signal that Titan had found something. "He's detecting," Ethan said, his voice barely a whisper. "Detecting what?" the warden demanded. "This is a prison cell." Titan didn't stop. He scratched harder, barked louder, his body language screaming what his voice couldn't say. Something was there. Something that mattered. "Get maintenance," the warden ordered. "Open that grate." "Sir," a guard protested. "This is an execution day. We can't—" "I said open it!" The guards scrambled. Tools appeared. The grate was pried from the floor. And behind it, hidden in the space that should have been empty, was a small plastic bag. Inside the bag was a photograph, a military ID card, and a handwritten note. The warden's face went pale as he read it. "What is it?" Ethan asked. The warden looked up at him. His hands were shaking. "This is evidence," he said slowly. "Evidence that was supposed to have been destroyed 4 years ago." "What kind of evidence?" "The kind that proves you didn't kill James Marsh." Ethan's world tilted. 4 years. 4 years of hell. 4 years of being called a murderer. And the truth had been hidden in his own cell. Someone had planted it there. Someone who wanted it found. But who? And why now? Titan had stopped barking. He sat calmly now, staring at Ethan through the bars. His tail wagged once, twice, like he was saying, "I told you. I've been trying to tell you for 4 years." Ethan fell to his knees. The tears he'd been holding back for years finally broke free. "Good boy," he sobbed. "Good boy, Titan. You never forgot." The dog whined softly, pressed his nose through the bars, and for the first time since that terrible night, Ethan felt something he'd thought he'd lost forever. Hope. The warden was on his phone within seconds. "Get me the JAG office. Now." "Sir?" a guard interrupted. "The execution is scheduled for—" "I know when it's scheduled," the warden's voice cracked. "But if this evidence is real, we're about to execute an innocent man." Ethan couldn't hear the conversation, couldn't process the chaos erupting around him. All he could do was reach through the bars and touch Titan's fur. Feel the warmth, the life, the loyalty that had never wavered. "You knew," Ethan whispered. "You always knew." Titan leaned into his hand, his eyes closing briefly. 4 years of separation, 4 years of pain. And somehow, through it all, the bond had survived. The handler approached carefully. "Sir, should I let him in the cell?" The warden hesitated, looked at the evidence in his hands, looked at Ethan, crying on his knees, looked at Titan, calm and patient. "Yes," he said finally. "Let them have this moment." The cell door buzzed open. Titan walked in slowly, not running, not jumping, just walking with the dignity of a soldier completing a mission. He reached Ethan and sat directly in front of him, pressed his forehead against Ethan's chest, and released a long, tired sigh, like he'd been holding his breath for 4 years, waiting for this moment. Ethan wrapped his arms around the dog, buried his face in that familiar fur, and for the first time in 4 years, he wasn't a condemned man. He was just a handler holding his partner, the way it was always meant to be. The phone call lasted 17 minutes. Ethan couldn't hear the details, but he could see the warden's face changing. Shock, confusion, anger, and finally, something that looked like horror. When the call ended, the warden stood frozen, staring at the evidence, staring at Ethan, staring at Titan. "Sir?" a guard asked. "What do we do?" The warden's voice was barely a whisper. "We stop the execution." "Sir, I said stop it." The warden's composure finally broke. "Stop everything. Nobody touches this man until we figure out what the hell happened." The corridor exploded into activity. Guards running, phones ringing, voices overlapping. But in the center of it all, Ethan and Titan remained perfectly still. Two warriors, reunited in the most unlikely moment, on the day that was supposed to be the end. "What's happening?" Ethan asked, his voice hoarse. The warden approached his cell, looked at him with eyes that held something Ethan hadn't seen in 4 years. Respect. "Commander Cole," he said slowly, "the evidence your dog just found, it changes everything." "Changes it how?" The warden held up the photograph. It showed 2 men, James Marsh and Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Drake. Ethan's blood turned to ice. Drake, his former teammate, his supposed brother, the man who had testified against him at trial. "This photograph was taken the night Marsh died," the warden said. "According to the timestamp, it was taken 3 hours before the official mission began." "That's impossible," Ethan's mind raced. Drake wasn't on that mission. He was back at base. "Apparently not." The warden's voice hardened. "And there's more." "More?" "The note." The warden's hand trembled. "It's a confession, written by someone who claims they witnessed the real murder." Ethan couldn't breathe. 4 years. 4 years of maintaining his innocence. 4 years of no one believing him. And now, on the morning of his execution, the truth was finally emerging. Who wrote it? The warden hesitated. "We don't know yet. But they claim Drake killed Marsh. And they claim you were framed." Ethan looked at Titan, at the dog who had been trying to tell him something for 4 years, who had barked at him that night, not in accusation, but in warning, in desperation, trying to tell him something was wrong, that the real killer was still out there. "He knew," Ethan said softly. "Titan knew the whole time." The warden nodded slowly, and apparently so did someone else. "Someone who hid this evidence in your cell and waited for the right moment." "What moment?" "The moment your dog would find it." Ethan stared at him. The warden continued. "Whoever planted this knew Titan's training, knew he would detect it, knew the reunion would be the only chance." "They planned this? They saved your life." Ethan's head spun. Someone had been watching. Someone had been waiting. Someone had orchestrated this entire moment. But who? And why? "Sir," a guard rushed in, "we have a situation." "What now?" "It's Drake." The guard's face was pale. He just arrived at the prison. Says he wants to witness the execution. Ethan's jaw tightened. Drake. The man who had testified against him. The man who had called him a murderer. The man who had watched him get sentenced to death. And now he was here to watch him die. Titan growled low in his throat, the same growl from the corridor, the same warning. Ethan understood now. Titan hadn't been growling at the wall. He'd been growling at the scent. Drake's scent, lingering in the cell from when he'd planted the evidence. It was him, Ethan realized. Drake hid this here. The warden's eyes widened. But why would he plant evidence that proves his own guilt? Because he didn't think Titan would find it. Ethan's voice hardened. He thought he was hiding it, making sure it would never be found. And when your dog detected it, everything changed. Titan barked once, loud, clear, like he was confirming everything. Ethan looked at his partner, at the gray muzzle, the tired eyes, the unbreakable loyalty. "You waited," Ethan whispered. "You waited 4 years for this moment." Titan's tail wagged, his tongue lolled out. And in that moment, Ethan knew. The execution wouldn't happen today. The truth was finally rising, and Marcus Drake had no idea what was coming. The news of the suspended execution spread through Fort Leavenworth like wildfire. Within 30 minutes, every guard, every officer, every inmate knew something extraordinary had happened. The condemned man was still alive, and a dog had saved him. Ethan sat in his cell, Titan pressed against his leg, while chaos erupted around them. Phone calls, shouted orders, running footsteps. But in the eye of the storm, there was only peace. 4 years, Ethan whispered, his hand never leaving Titan's fur. 4 years I thought you'd forgotten me. Titan whined softly, pressed closer, his eyes never leaving Ethan's face. "You were trying to tell me that night, weren't you?" Ethan's voice cracked. "When you barked at me, you weren't accusing me. You were warning me." Titan's tail thumped once against the concrete floor. And I didn't understand. The guilt washed over Ethan like a wave. All those years, all that pain. And Titan had known the truth the entire time. Unable to speak it. Unable to make anyone listen. Trapped in silence while the world destroyed his partner. "I'm sorry, boy." Ethan buried his face in Titan's neck. "I'm so sorry." The cell door buzzed. Ethan looked up. A woman stood in the doorway, mid-30s, sharp features, FBI credentials hanging from her neck. Commander Cole. Her voice was professional, but not cold. "I'm Agent Sarah Torres, Criminal Investigations Division." Ethan didn't move. Didn't release Titan. "What do you want?" Torres stepped into the cell. Her eyes moved to Titan, softened briefly, then hardened again. "I've been investigating your case for 18 months, she said, unofficially, against direct orders." "Why?" "Because nothing about it made sense." Ethan stared at her. Torres continued. "You had no motive to kill James Marsh. No history of violence outside combat. No psychological indicators. Your service record was impeccable. Tell that to the jury." "I would have." Torres's jaw tightened. "But I couldn't get access to the classified files. Someone buried them. Deep." "Who?" "That's what I've been trying to find out." Torres crouched down to Ethan's level. "Until this morning, I had nothing but suspicions. And now? Now I have evidence." Torres held up the photograph. "This picture places Marcus Drake at the scene 3 hours before the official mission. 3 hours before you were even briefed." Ethan's blood ran cold. Drake was there early? According to this timestamp, yes. Torres studied his reaction. What do you remember about that night? Ethan closed his eyes. The memories flooded back, fragmented, painful. We were hunting a high-value target, compound in the mountains. Intel said he'd be there until dawn. Who provided the intel? Ethan froze. He'd never thought about it before, never questioned it. Drake, he said slowly. Drake handled the intelligence briefing. Torres nodded. And when you arrived at the compound? It was supposed to be a quick extraction. 6-man team, in and out. Ethan's voice hardened. But Marsh and I got separated from the others. There was a firefight, confusion, and then... I found Marsh on the floor. Ethan's hands began to shake. Already bleeding, already dying. I tried to help him, tried to stop the bleeding. And Drake? Ethan opened his eyes. Drake arrived with the extraction team. He was the one who found me, the one who secured the scene, the one who controlled the narrative, Torres added quietly. What are you saying? I'm saying Marcus Drake has been lying for 4 years, Torres stood. And today, we're going to prove it. Titan growled. Low. Warning. Ethan felt the fur on the dog's neck rise. Someone's coming, Torres said. The footsteps were heavy, confident, familiar. And then Marcus Drake appeared in the doorway. Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Drake looked exactly as Ethan remembered. Tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of man who commanded respect without trying. His seal trident still gleamed on his chest. His eyes still carried that calculated calm that had made him such an effective operator. But there was something different now. Something Ethan hadn't noticed before. A flicker of fear beneath the surface. Ethan. Drake's voice was smooth, controlled. I heard they stopped the execution. Thank God. Ethan said nothing. Titan's growl intensified. Drake's eyes moved to the dog. Easy boy, just here to see an old friend. Titan bared his teeth. The handler instinctively stepped back. But Drake stood his ground. Always was a protective one, wasn't he? Drake forced a laugh. Remember when he nearly took off that Taliban's arm in Kandahar? I remember, Ethan said quietly. I also remember you testifying that I killed Marsh in cold blood. Drake's mask flickered. I testified to what I saw. You were kneeling over his body, blood everywhere. What was I supposed to think? You were supposed to think about the 8 years we served together. Ethan stood slowly. You were supposed to remember who I was. I did remember. That's why it hurt so much. The words hung in the air, hollow, rehearsed. Torres stepped forward. Chief Warrant Officer Drake, I'm going to need you to come with me for questioning. Questioning? Drake's laugh was sharp. On whose authority? Mine. Torres flashed her credentials. FBI Criminal Investigations. This case has been reopened. Based on what? New evidence. Drake's composure cracked, just for a second, but Ethan saw it. And so did Titan. The dog lunged, not to attack, but to position himself between Ethan and Drake. A wall of fur and muscle. A warning that needed no words. Your dog doesn't seem to trust me, Drake said. He's a better judge of character than I was. Ethan's voice was ice. Drake's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It means I spent 4 years thinking about that night. Ethan stepped closer. 4 years asking myself what I missed, what I didn't see. And what did you figure out? That someone set me up. Ethan's voice hardened. Someone who knew the compound layout. Someone who knew where Marsh would be. Someone who had access to the intelligence. He paused. Someone who arrived 3 hours early. Drake's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Torres held up the photograph. Then explain this. Drake stared at the image. His jaw tightened. His hands clenched into fists. Where did you get that? Your cell, Torres said calmly. Hidden in a ventilation grate, along with a confession. Confession? Drake's voice cracked. What confession? From someone who watched you kill James Marsh. The silence that followed was deafening. Drake's eyes darted between Torres, Ethan, and the photograph. Calculating. Desperate. That's ridiculous, his voice rose. I wasn't even at the compound until the extraction. Ask anyone on the team. We did. Torres's voice didn't waver. They all confirmed you arrived with them, which makes this photograph very interesting. It's fabricated. Drake stepped back. Someone doctored it. Someone who wants to destroy me. Who? Ethan asked. Who would want to destroy you, Drake? I don't know. Enemies, competitors, someone jealous of my career. Your career? Ethan's laugh was bitter. You mean the career you built on my conviction? The promotions you got for being the hero who caught a murderer? I earned those promotions. You earned nothing. 4 years of rage exploded from Ethan's chest. You watched them destroy me. You watched them take everything I had, and you said nothing, because there was nothing to say, Drake screamed back. You were guilty. No. Titan's bark cut through the chaos, sharp, final. Both men froze. The dog was standing now, his eyes locked on Drake, his body rigid with barely contained fury. And then he did something extraordinary. He walked to the corner of the cell, the same corner where the evidence had been hidden, and he sat down, perfectly still, his eyes never leaving Drake. The signal. The same signal he'd given 1,000 times in the field. Target identified. Threat confirmed. Torres looked at Ethan. What's he doing? He's telling us something, Ethan said quietly. What? Ethan watched his partner, the dog who had been trying to communicate for 4 years, the dog who had never stopped believing, the dog who had finally found a way to make them listen. He's telling us Drake was here before. In this cell. Ethan's voice hardened. He planted the evidence himself. That's insane, Drake sputtered. Is it? Torres moved toward him. How would the evidence end up in Cole's cell? A cell he's been locked in for 4 years. Someone smuggled it in. Who? Torres pressed. The guards are documented 24/7. Visitors are searched. Mail is screened. I don't know. Someone. Or you. Torres's voice dropped to ice. You visited Cole 3 times in the past year. Each time, you had private access to this corridor. Drake's face crumbled. I was trying to make peace. Say goodbye before the execution. Or you were planting insurance. Torres stepped closer. Hiding evidence you thought would never be found? You can't prove that. I don't have to. Torres nodded toward Titan. He just did. Drake looked at the dog, at the unwavering accusation in those brown eyes, at the loyalty that had survived 4 years of separation, at the truth he'd tried so hard to bury. This is ridiculous, he whispered. You can't convict a man based on a dog's behavior? No, Torres smiled coldly. But I can detain him for questioning while we analyze the evidence. The photograph, the confession, the DNA on the plastic bag. Drake's eyes widened. DNA? You thought you were careful. Torres pulled out handcuffs. But everyone leaves traces, and military labs are very thorough. Drake's composure shattered. His eyes darted to the door, to the guards, to the escape routes that no longer existed. "Don't," Ethan said quietly. Drake's hands trembled. 4 years, Ethan continued. I had 4 years to think about what you did. 4 years to imagine this moment. And you know what? What? Ethan stepped forward, close enough to see the sweat on Drake's forehead, close enough to see the fear in his eyes. I'm not going to hurt you. Ethan's voice was steady. Because that would make me like you. And I'm nothing like you. You don't understand, Drake's voice cracked. You don't know what happened that night, what Marsh found out. Then tell me. I can't. Why? Because they'll kill me. The words echoed through the cell. They'll kill me. Not, I'll go to prison. Not, I'll lose my career. They'll kill me. Who? Torres demanded. Who will kill you? Drake was shaking now, the mask completely gone. In its place, a terrified man who had been running for 4 years. You think I wanted this? His voice broke. You think I wanted to destroy Ethan's life? He was my brother, my teammate. Then why? Ethan's voice cracked with pain. Why did you do it? Because Marsh was going to expose everything. Drake fell to his knees. The intelligence leaks, the money, the deals with the enemy. What deals? Tears streamed down Drake's face. For 3 years I'd been selling information. Troop movements, target locations, asset identities. Ethan felt the world tilt. You sold out your own men? I didn't have a choice. They had leverage. Things from my past. Things that would destroy me. So you destroyed me instead. Drake looked up at him. The guilt was overwhelming. Raw. Absolute. Marsh figured it out. He found the communications. The money transfers. He was going to report me. Drake's voice dropped to a whisper. I panicked. I shot him. And then I saw you coming. So you framed me. I made it look like you did it. Planted the gun in your hands while you were in shock. Called in the extraction. And Titan? Drake's eyes moved to the dog. He saw everything. That's why he was barking. Not at you, at me. But nobody understood. I understand now. Ethan's voice was ice. Drake crumbled completely. I'm sorry. The words were barely audible. I'm so sorry. 4 years, Drake. Ethan's voice shook. 4 years of my life. And you say sorry? I'll testify. Drake looked up desperately. Against everyone. The handlers, the contacts, the network, everything. Torres stepped forward. You'll do more than that. She cuffed his hands. You'll spend the rest of your life making up for what you did. As the guards dragged Drake away, Ethan stood frozen. The truth was finally out. The nightmare was finally ending. And all because of a dog who never forgot. Titan pressed against his leg, whined softly. Ethan knelt down, wrapped his arms around his partner. You did it, boy, he sobbed. You actually did it. Titan's tail wagged, his eyes closed, and for the first time in 4 years, both of them could finally breathe. The interrogation room was cold, but Marcus Drake was sweating. Torres sat across from him, a folder thick with documents between them. Ethan watched through the one-way glass, Titan pressed against his leg. 2 hours since Drake's confession. 2 hours since the world had begun to shift. Let's start from the beginning, Torres said calmly. Who recruited you? Drake's hands trembled. I want a lawyer. You'll get one, after you tell me about the network. Drake laughed bitterly. You think this is just about me? One man selling secrets? He shook his head. This goes higher than you can imagine. Try me." Drake leaned back. His eyes moved to the mirror, to where he knew Ethan was watching. 3 years ago, I was approached by a man named Victor Reinhold, former CIA, now private sector. He said he needed information. Specific information about SEAL operations. And you gave it to him. At first, just small things. Patrol routes, training schedules. Nothing that would get anyone killed. Drake's voice cracked. Or so I thought. What changed? Reinhold wanted more. Target locations, asset identities, mission parameters. He paused. And the price went up. How much? 200,000 per transmission. Torres didn't flinch. And James Marsh? Drake's face crumbled. Marsh was a communications specialist. He noticed anomalies in our secure channels. Encrypted messages going to unauthorized destinations. Drake wiped his eyes. He traced them back to me. So you killed him. I panicked. Drake's voice broke. He was going to report me, destroy everything. I couldn't let that happen. So you destroyed Ethan instead. Drake nodded slowly. He was perfect. Clean record, hero reputation. If he snapped under pressure, no one would question it. But Titan knew. That damn dog. Drake's laugh was hollow. He saw everything. Watched me put the gun in Ethan's hands. Watched me arrange the scene. And he wouldn't stop barking, because he was trying to tell someone. For 4 years, that dog has been the only witness who knew the truth. Drake met Torres's eyes, and no one listened. We're listening now. Behind the glass, Ethan's fists clenched. 4 years. 4 years because of greed. 4 years because of cowardice. 4 years because the military he dedicated his life to had failed him. Commander Cole. Ethan turned. Warden Mitchell stood in the doorway. There's someone here to see you. Who? The warden's face was unreadable. James Marsh's sister. Ethan's blood turned to ice. Rachel Marsh had been one of the loudest voices calling for his execution. She'd stood outside the courthouse every day of his trial, held signs with her brother's photograph, screamed that Ethan deserved to die for what he'd done. And now she wanted to see him. Ethan hesitated. Titan whined softly. His eyes moved to his partner, the dog who had spent 4 years trying to expose the truth. The dog who had never given up on him. Okay, Ethan said quietly. I'll see her. Rachel Marsh looked exactly as Ethan remembered. Dark hair, fierce eyes, the same jawline as her brother. But something was different now. The anger was still there, but beneath it, something else. Uncertainty. Commander Cole. Her voice was tight. Miss Marsh. They stood in the prison's visitor area. Titan sat at Ethan's feet, alert, watchful. I spent 4 years hating you, Rachel said. I know. I celebrated when they sentenced you to death. I know. I prayed every night that you would suffer. Ethan said nothing. Rachel's composure cracked. And now I find out you were innocent, her voice broke. That you didn't kill my brother, that someone else did. Drake. Drake. Rachel's hands trembled. The man who came to Jamie's funeral, who cried at his grave, who promised me justice. He was lying. I believed him. Rachel's tears fell. For 4 years I believed him. I put all my hate on you, and you were innocent the whole time. Ethan felt something shift in his chest. Not anger, not resentment, something else. You didn't know, he said quietly. I should have. Rachel looked at him. Jamie trusted you. He talked about you all the time. Said you were the best operator he'd ever worked with. He was a good man. He was my brother, Rachel's voice cracked. And I spent 4 years hating the wrong person for his death. Ethan didn't know what to say. What could he say? 4 years of her hatred? 4 years of his suffering? All built on lies. I'm sorry, Rachel whispered. The words hung in the air. Ethan stared at her. You're sorry? For what I did? For what I said? For all the pain I caused you? Rachel met his eyes. I know it doesn't change anything. I know I can't give you those years back, but I needed you to know. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Titan pressed against his leg, offering comfort, offering support. I don't blame you, Ethan said finally. What? You lost your brother. Ethan's voice was steady. Someone told you I killed him. You believed them because you needed someone to hate, someone to punish. But you didn't do it. No, but if someone had killed Titan, Ethan looked at his partner. I would have wanted blood too. Rachel's tears flowed freely now. How can you be so calm? How can you not hate me? Because hate doesn't help anyone. Ethan's voice hardened. Drake hated having his secrets exposed. So he killed your brother. I spent 4 years hating him. It only made the pain worse. What do you want now? Justice. Ethan met her eyes. Real justice. Not just for me. For your brother. For all the people Drake's intelligence leaks got killed. Rachel nodded slowly. Whatever you need from me. Whatever I can do. Help me find them. Ethan's voice was steel. Help me find everyone who was part of this. Torres entered the visitor area. Her face was grave. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Drake's not the only one. Torres held up a tablet. The network he mentioned? It's real, and it's bigger than we thought. How big? 3 senators, 2 generals, a CIA deputy director. Torres's voice dropped. And they know we're coming. Ethan's blood ran cold. What do you mean they know? Someone leaked. Torres's jaw tightened. Drake's confession was supposed to be sealed, but word got out. Who leaked it? We're still investigating. But whoever they are, they've activated contingencies. What kind of contingencies? Torres met his eyes. Elimination protocols. Anyone who can testify is now a target. Including Drake? Drake was found dead in his cell 20 minutes ago. The words hit Ethan like a physical blow. Dead? Poison. In his water. Torres shook her head. Whoever these people are, they don't leave loose ends. Ethan felt the walls closing in. Drake was their only link to the network, their only witness. And now he was gone. This wasn't just about me, Ethan said slowly. It was never just about me. No, Torres's voice was grim. You were collateral damage. Marsh was the real threat. He discovered their operation, and Drake silenced him. Drake was their tool. Torres paused. But now they're cleaning house. They'll come for me next. Maybe. Torres met his eyes. Or maybe they already tried. What do you mean? The evidence in your cell, the photograph, the confession. Torres paused. We analyzed the handwriting. And? It was written by a Navy SEAL communications specialist. Marsh? No. Torres shook her head. It was written by someone who died 6 months ago. Petty Officer David Chen. Chen. Ethan felt his heart stop. He was on my team. He was also investigating the network, secretly, without authorization. That's why he died. Official report says training accident. Torres's voice hardened. But now we're not so sure. Chen knew the truth. He knew more than that. Torres held up the tablet. Before he died, Chen hid evidence all over the military system. Files, photographs, recordings. And the evidence in my cell was his insurance policy. Chen planted it, knowing that one day someone would find it. Someone the network couldn't control. Titan. Chen knew about your dog, knew about his training, knew that if anyone could find hidden evidence, it would be him. Ethan looked at his partner, the dog who had spent 4 years waiting, 4 years protecting a secret he couldn't speak. Chen trusted you, Torres said softly. He trusted Titan, and that trust just saved your life. What now? Ethan's voice hardened. Drake is dead. The network knows we're coming. What do we do? Torres smiled grimly. We use Chen's evidence. All of it. How? He hid files across 30 different secure servers, encrypted with codes only he knew. Torres paused. But before he died, he sent one final message. To who? To you. What? Check your personal effects, the ones confiscated when you were arrested. Chen sent you something 4 years ago, something you never saw. Ethan's mind raced. His personal effects, the belongings taken from him the night of his arrest, locked away for 4 years. What did he send me? A key. Torres met his eyes. The key to everything. 15 minutes later, Ethan stood over a cardboard box. Everything he'd had on him the night he was arrested. His watch, his wallet, a photograph of him and Titan on their first deployment. And at the bottom, an envelope he'd never seen before, addressed to him, postmarked 4 years ago. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. Brother, if you're reading this, I'm already dead, and you've been paying for my mistakes. I'm sorry. I should have told you what I found. Should have trusted you with the truth. But I was scared. Scared of what they'd do to my family. The drive contains everything. Names, accounts, communications. Enough to bring down the entire network. I couldn't expose them alone. But you can. You and Titan. He's the key. He always was. The dog never forgets. The dog never lies. The dog will lead you to the truth. Trust him. Trust yourself. And burn them all. David Chen, SEAL Team 4, Brother Forever. Ethan's vision blurred. Chen, the quiet one. The one who always had his back. The one who died in a training accident that was never an accident. He died for this, Ethan whispered. Torres nodded, and he made sure his death wouldn't be in vain. Ethan looked at the USB drive, the key to everything, the key to justice, the key to destroying the network that had ruined his life. What's on here? He asked. Torres took the drive. Let's find out. Titan barked once, loud, clear, like he'd been waiting 4 years for this moment. The moment when the truth would finally be heard. And Ethan understood. This wasn't just about his freedom. It was about Chen, about Marsh, about every victim the network had silenced. They wanted to bury the truth, but they forgot one thing. Some things couldn't be buried. Some loyalties couldn't be broken. Some dogs never forgot. And now, the hunt was on. The USB drive contains 17 gigabytes of data. Names, dates, bank accounts, encrypted communications, and photographs. So many photographs. Torres scrolled through the files while Ethan watched. Titan lay at his feet, finally resting after 4 years of vigilance. "My God," Torres whispered. "What?" "This network has been operating for over a decade." She pointed at the screen. "Look at these transactions. Millions of dollars flowing through shell companies, all traceable back to military intelligence." "Who's at the top?" Torres hesitated. Ethan leaned forward. "Who?" "Admiral Raymond Pierce." Ethan felt the world tilt. Pierce. The man who had pinned Ethan's trident on him 12 years ago. The man who had spoken at his conviction hearing. The man who had called him a disgrace to the uniform. "You're sure?" Chen was thorough. Torres pulled up a document. "Pierce has been running this operation since 2009, using special operations assets to gather intelligence, then selling it to the highest bidder." "And the others?" 2 senators on the Armed Services Committee, a CIA deputy director, 3 generals. Torres shook her head. "They've been covering each other for years, and Marsh found out. Marsh was the first to connect the dots." Torres's voice hardened. "Chen continued his work after Marsh died. And now you're the last one standing. They'll come for me. They already tried." Torres met his eyes. "The poison that killed Drake? It was meant for you." "What?" "The medical team found traces in your water supply, too. Lower dose, slower acting, probably meant to kill you in your cell before the execution." "Then why am I still alive?" "Because Titan knocked over your water cup this morning." Torres almost smiled. The guards thought he was being difficult, but he was saving your life. Again. Ethan looked at his partner. The old German shepherd lifted his head, his brown eyes meeting Ethan's with an expression that needed no translation. "I know what poison smells like. I've always known." "You incredible dog," Ethan whispered. Titan's tail thumped once. Then he lowered his head and returned to resting. His mission never ending, his vigilance never wavering. "We need to move fast," Torres said. "Pierce has resources, connections. If he finds out we have Chen's files, he'll destroy everything." "Exactly." Torres stood. "We need to get this evidence to people who can act on it. People Pierce can't reach." "Who?" "The Secretary of Defense is outside Pierce's network. So is the Attorney General." Torres paused. "But we need to get to them before Pierce does." "How?" "I have a contact at the Pentagon. Someone I trust." Torres pulled out her phone. "We can transmit the files directly to a secure server." "And Pierce?" "We'll have teams move simultaneously." Torres's jaw tightened. "Arrest everyone at once. No warning. No time to destroy evidence." Ethan nodded slowly. For 4 years he dreamed of this moment. Justice. Real justice. Not revenge. Something cleaner. Something permanent. "Let's do it," he said. Torres made the call. 15 minutes later, everything changed. Torres's contact was dead. Found in his office. Apparent heart attack. But Ethan knew better. And so did Torres. "They knew we were coming," she said, her voice hollow. "How?" "I don't know." Torres paced. "I used a secure line. Encrypted protocols. There's no way they could have—" "Unless someone inside your team is compromised." Torres froze. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Ethan's voice hardened. "Pierce has been running this network for over a decade. You think he doesn't have people in the FBI?" Torres's face went pale. "If that's true, then we're alone." Ethan looked at Titan, at the dog who had been his only ally for 4 years, the dog who had never betrayed him, the dog who never would. "We need another way," Ethan said. "There is no other way," Torres's voice cracked. Pierce controls too much. He has too many people. We can't... The lights went out. The entire building plunged into darkness. Titan was on his feet instantly, growling, alert. They found us, Torres whispered. The emergency lights flickered on, red, dim, just enough to see shadows moving in the corridor. How many? Ethan asked. Torres checked her weapon. Too many. Ethan's training kicked in. 12 years of combat experience. 12 years of survival. Is there another way out? Loading dock. Torres moved toward the back. If we can reach it. A gunshot echoed through the building. Then another. Then screaming. They're clearing the building, Ethan said, taking out anyone who might be a witness. We need to go. Now. Titan led the way, his senses sharper than any human's, his instincts honed by years of combat. He stopped at a junction, looked left, looked right, then turned left. He knows the way, Ethan said. How? He's been tracking scents since we arrived. Ethan followed his partner. He knows where the enemies are, and where they aren't. They moved through the corridors, silent, fast, deadly. 3 times Titan stopped them before they rounded the corner. 3 times armed men passed without seeing them. The dog was leading them through a maze of death, and he was winning. The loading dock was 50 feet away when they heard the voice. Commander Cole. Ethan froze. He knew that voice. Admiral Raymond Pierce stepped out of the shadows. 62 years old, silver hair, the kind of presence that commanded respect. And behind him, 6 armed men. Torres raised her weapon. I wouldn't, Pierce said calmly. My men have orders to kill the woman first, then the dog, then you. Ethan's hands clenched. Titan growled, low, dangerous. Call off your dog, Pierce ordered. He doesn't take orders from traitors. Pierce smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Traitor. Interesting word coming from a convicted murderer. I was innocent. I know. Pierce's voice didn't change. I'm the one who framed you, remember? The casual admission hit Ethan like a physical blow. Why? Because Marsh was going to destroy everything I'd built. Pierce stepped closer. 20 years of careful planning, hundreds of millions of dollars, all about to crumble because one communications specialist couldn't mind his own business. So you had Drake kill him. Drake was a tool, useful, but ultimately disposable. Pierce shrugged. Just like you. I was your soldier. You were a liability. Pierce's voice hardened. Too honest, too principled. The kind of man who asks questions. The kind of man who doesn't look away. So you destroyed my life. I contained a threat. Pierce met his eyes. Nothing personal, Commander. Just business. Ethan felt the rage building. 4 years. 4 years of suffering. All because of this man. Chen figured it out too, Ethan said. That's why you killed him. Chen was smarter than Marsh. More careful. Pierce's jaw tightened. But not careful enough. He left evidence. I know. That's why I'm here. Pierce held out his hand. The USB drive. Now. Ethan didn't move. If I don't, then everyone in this building dies. Pierce gestured to his men. Starting with your dog. Titan snarled, his body tensed, ready to attack. Easy, boy. Ethan's voice was calm. Not yet. The USB drive, Pierce repeated. Ethan reached into his pocket, slowly, carefully, and pulled out the drive. Pierce's eyes locked on it. Greed, relief, the arrogance of a man who believed he'd won. Slide it across the floor, Pierce ordered. Ethan looked at Torres, at the fear in her eyes, at the hopelessness. Then he looked at Titan, at the dog who had spent 4 years waiting for this moment, at the partner who had never given up. "Titan," Ethan said softly. "Remember Kandahar?" The dog's ears perked up. The code word, the signal they'd used 100 times in the field. Attack. Titan launched, 65 pounds of muscle and fury, straight at the nearest gunman. The man screamed, went down, his weapon firing wild. Torres moved. 2 shots. 2 men dropped. Ethan threw himself at Pierce. They crashed to the ground, wrestling, fighting. Pierce was older, but still strong, trained, dangerous. "You can't win," Pierce gasped. "Even if you kill me, the network survives. Then I'll destroy them too." Ethan's fist connected with Pierce's jaw. Once, twice, 3 times. Pierce went limp. Titan had finished with his target. Blood on his muzzle, but uninjured. Torres stood over 3 bodies, her weapon still raised. 2 more gunmen fled, running into the darkness. "We need to move," Torres said. "Reinforcements will be coming." "No." Ethan stood over Pierce's unconscious body. "We're not running anymore." "Ethan, this is insane." Torres moved toward him. "We don't have backup. We don't have support. We can't. We have the truth." Ethan held up the USB drive. "And we have one chance to expose it." "How?" Ethan looked at Pierce, at the man who had destroyed so many lives, at the man who believed he was untouchable. "We make him confess." "He'll never confess." "He will." Ethan's voice was ice. "Because I know something he doesn't." "What?" "That Chen didn't just leave evidence." Ethan pulled out his phone. He left a dead man's switch. "A what?" Chen was a communications specialist. He knew how to build systems. Ethan opened an app. Before he died, he created an automated upload protocol. If he didn't check in every 30 days, the files would be released automatically. To who? Every major news outlet in the world. Ethan met Torres's eyes. "Chen's been dead for 6 months. The files should have been released months ago." But they weren't. Because someone found the switch. Someone disabled it. Ethan looked at Pierce. "And I'm betting he knows who." Pierce groaned, starting to regain consciousness. Ethan knelt beside him. "Admiral, time to wake up." Pierce's eyes opened, unfocused, confused, then recognition and fear. "Chen's dead man's switch," Ethan said calmly. "Where is it?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." Ethan pressed the USB drive against Pierce's throat. "Chen built a system to release all his evidence automatically. You found it. You disabled it. Now you're going to tell me where." "Go to hell." Titan growled, moved closer, his breath hot against Pierce's face. "My dog doesn't like liars," Ethan said. "And he hasn't eaten in 12 hours. You wouldn't." "Try me." Pierce's composure cracked. The fear was real now, raw, absolute. "It's in my office, a server room beneath the Pentagon. Chen hid it in our own system." "How do we reactivate it?" "You can't," Pierce laughed weakly. "It requires biometric access. My fingerprint, my retinal scan, and I'll die before I give you that." Ethan smiled. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." He stood, looked at Torres. "Can you get us to the Pentagon?" "Are you insane?" "Probably." Ethan's voice was steady. "But Chen died for this. Marsh died for this. And I spent 4 years in hell for this. I'm not stopping now." Torres stared at him, then at Pierce, then at Titan. The dog sat calmly, his eyes meeting hers, unwavering, loyal, determined. The same look Ethan had, the look of someone who had nothing left to lose, and everything left to fight for. "Okay," Torres said finally. "Let's finish this." Ethan pulled Pierce to his feet. "You're going to help us, Admiral, whether you want to or not." "They'll kill you." Pierce's voice was desperate. "They'll kill all of you." "Maybe." Ethan met his eyes. "But they'll never silence the truth." He looked at Titan. "Ready, boy?" Titan barked once. Loud. Clear. The hunt wasn't over. It was just beginning. And this time, the prey was the most powerful man in the United States military. The Pentagon at 3 a.m. was a fortress, but every fortress had weaknesses, and Torres knew them all. "Service entrance," she said quietly. "Maintenance crew shifts at 3:15. We have a 7-minute window." Ethan moved through the darkness, Pierce's arm twisted behind his back. Titan led the way, silent, alert, his ears tracking every sound. "This is insane," Pierce hissed. "You'll never make it to the server room." "Then you better hope we do." Ethan tightened his grip. "Because if we get caught, you're going down with us." They reached the service entrance at 3:12, 3 minutes to spare. Torres used her credentials. The door clicked open. "How do you still have access?" Ethan asked. "I never reported my investigation." Torres smiled grimly. "Officially, I'm just another FBI agent working late." They moved through the corridors. Empty. Silent. The kind of silence that only existed in the dead of night. Titan stopped at a junction, his nose working, his body tense. "Someone's coming," Ethan said. "How many?" Titan's ears moved. 2. Torres pulled them into a side room. The footsteps passed, faded, gone. "That was close," Pierce muttered. "Shut up." They continued, down 3 levels, through 2 security checkpoints where Torres's badge still worked, until they reached a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." "This is it," Torres said. "Chen's files are behind this door." Pierce laughed bitterly. "You'll never get in. Biometric locks, retinal scanners. And even if you do, the system requires my personal authorization code. Then give it to us. And spend the rest of my life in prison?" Pierce shook his head. "I'd rather die." "That can be arranged." Titan growled, stepped closer to Pierce, his teeth inches from the Admiral's throat. "Call him off. Give us the code." Pierce's face was pale. His eyes locked on the dog who had ended careers and saved lives in equal measure. 071-92001. Ethan entered the code. The door clicked open. "See?" Ethan pushed Pierce forward. "That wasn't so hard." The server room was smaller than expected. Rows of humming machines, blinking lights, the digital heartbeat of military intelligence. "Where's Chen's switch?" Torres asked. Pierce pointed to a terminal in the corner. "There. He hid it in a backup maintenance system." Torres moved to the terminal. "How do we activate it?" "You need my retinal scan and my fingerprint." "Then let's get them." Ethan forced Pierce toward the scanner. The Admiral resisted. "I won't do it. You can't make me." Titan barked, sharp, commanding. Pierce flinched. "I said I won't." Ethan grabbed Pierce's hand, forced it onto the fingerprint reader. "Retinal scan," he said calmly. "No!" Titan lunged, stopped inches from Pierce's face, his jaws open, his breath hot against the Admiral's skin. "Last chance," Ethan said. Pierce's resistance crumbled. He leaned forward. The retinal scanner activated. A green light flashed. "Access granted." The terminal came to life, and David Chen's voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, I'm already dead." Ethan felt his throat tighten. Chen, his brother in arms, his friend who had died trying to expose the truth. What you're about to see is evidence of a conspiracy that reaches the highest levels of military and government leadership. Admiral Raymond Pierce, Senators Morrison and Blake, CIA Deputy Director Wallace, Generals Harrison, Mitchell, and Park. The names scrolled across the screen: photographs, bank records, intercepted communications. These men have been selling classified intelligence to foreign powers for over a decade. They've caused the deaths of hundreds of American service members, and they've used their positions to cover their crimes. Chen's voice cracked with emotion. "I tried to expose them. I failed. But if you're hearing this, someone didn't." The recording paused, then continued. "In approximately 60 seconds, this evidence will be transmitted to every major news outlet in the world, to the Attorney General, to the Secretary of Defense, to the FBI, CIA, and Homeland Security." Pierce's face went white. "You can't stop it," Chen's voice said. "You can only watch." The countdown began. 60 seconds. 59. 58. No. Pierce lunged for the terminal. "No, no, no!" Ethan caught him, threw him to the ground. Titan stood over him, preventing any movement. "This is over, Pierce." 45 seconds. "You don't understand." Pierce was sobbing now. "They'll kill my family, my children, everyone I love." "You should have thought about that before you destroyed everyone else's." 30 seconds. "Please," Pierce begged. "I'll give you anything. Money." "Power. Anything you want. I want 4 years of my life back." Ethan's voice was ice. "I want James Marsh back. I want David Chen back. Can you give me that?" Pierce said nothing. 20 seconds. "I didn't think so." 15. 10. The terminal flashed. Transmission initiated. The files scattered across the digital world. Unstoppable. Irreversible. Final. Chen's voice returned one last time. "To whoever activated this switch, thank you. You finished what I couldn't." And to Ethan Cole, if you're still alive, I'm sorry. I should have told you the truth. I should have trusted you. But I was afraid. A pause. "Don't be afraid anymore, brother. The truth is out, and it can never be buried again." The recording ended. The room fell silent, except for Pierce's sobbing, and Titan's steady breathing, and the distant sound of alarms beginning to wail. "It's done," Torres said quietly. Ethan looked at her, at the woman who had risked everything to help him. "Now what?" "Now we wait." They didn't have to wait long. Within hours, the world exploded. News outlets broadcasting the evidence, military police swarming the Pentagon, arrests happening across the country. Pierce, the senators, the generals, the CIA deputy director. One by one, they fell, handcuffed, photographed, paraded before cameras. The network that had operated for decades crumbled in a single day. And at the center of it all, a condemned man and his dog watched from a secure room as justice finally arrived. "Commander Cole." Ethan looked up. The Secretary of Defense stood in the doorway. A man Ethan had met once, years ago, before everything had fallen apart. "Mr. Secretary, on behalf of the United States military, I owe you an apology." The Secretary's voice was heavy with emotion. "You were failed by the very institution you served." "I know. Your conviction will be overturned immediately. Full exoneration, restoration of rank and honors." The Secretary paused. and compensation for the years you lost. I don't want money. What do you want? Ethan looked at Titan, at the dog who had saved his life more times than he could count. I want my partner, officially, for the rest of his life. The secretary nodded. Done. And one more thing. Name it. David Chen died exposing this network. So did James Marsh. Ethan's voice hardened. I want them honored. Properly. Publicly. The world needs to know what they sacrificed. The secretary was quiet for a moment. Then he extended his hand. It will be done, Commander. You have my word. Ethan shook his hand. For the first time in 4 years, he felt something he'd thought he'd lost forever. Peace. 1 week later, the sun was warm on Ethan's face as he walked out of Fort Leavenworth for the final time. Not through the back gate reserved for bodies, through the front entrance reserved for the living. Titan walked beside him, his gait slower now, his joints stiff with age, but his spirit unbroken. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, but Ethan ignored them all. He had only one destination, one person he needed to see. Rachel Marsh stood at the edge of the crowd, her eyes red from crying, but not from grief, from something else. Commander Cole. Ms. Marsh. They stood in silence for a moment, two people bound by tragedy, now connected by truth. I watched the news, Rachel said finally. All of it. I'm sorry you had to learn the truth that way. Don't be, Rachel's voice cracked. I'm glad I know. I'm glad the world knows. Your brother was a hero. He was my brother. Rachel smiled through her tears. That's all that mattered. Ethan nodded. Titan pressed against his leg. Can I ask you something? Rachel said. Of course. What will you do now? Ethan looked at his partner. At the gray muzzle, the tired eyes, the unbreakable loyalty. I'm going to take Titan home, he said. Give him the retirement he deserves. And after that? Ethan thought about Chen, about Marsh, about all the people who had suffered because the system had failed them. I'm going to make sure this never happens again. Rachel stared at him. How? By helping people like me, people who've been wrongly convicted, people who've been abandoned by the system. Ethan's voice hardened. I spent 4 years with no one believing me, no one fighting for me. Except Titan. He looked at his dog. Everyone deserves someone who will fight for them. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out her photograph. Jamie kept this in his wallet, she said, until the day he died. Ethan took the photograph. It showed 3 men, Marsh, Chen, and Ethan, arms around each other, smiling. Brothers. He said you were the best commander he ever served under, Rachel continued. He said you never left anyone behind. Ethan's vision blurred. I left him behind. No. Rachel's voice was firm. Drake left him behind. Pierce left him behind. You spent 4 years trying to prove the truth, and Titan finished the job. Rachel looked at the dog, knelt down, rubbed behind his ears. Thank you, she whispered, for never giving up. Titan's tail wagged, his eyes closed, soaking in the warmth of gratitude he'd waited 4 years to receive. 6 months later, the Ethan Cole Foundation for Wrongful Convictions opened its doors. 50 lawyers, 20 investigators, and one very special therapy dog. Titan had officially retired from active duty, but he hadn't stopped working. Every day, he walked through the Foundation's offices, visiting with clients, comforting families, reminding everyone that loyalty never died. Ethan watched him now, moving between desks with the grace of an aging warrior. Still proud, still purposeful, still serving. "Commander Cole?" Ethan turned. A young woman stood in the doorway, mid-20s, military uniform, eyes filled with desperation. "Can I help you?" "My father," her voice cracked. "He's on death row, convicted of killing his commanding officer. But he didn't do it. I know he didn't." Ethan studied her, saw himself in her eyes, the same desperation, the same hopelessness, the same refusal to give up. "Sit down," he said gently. "Tell me everything." Titan appeared at the woman's side, pressed against her leg, offering comfort, offering hope, offering the same unwavering loyalty he'd given Ethan for 12 years. The woman looked at the dog, then at Ethan. "They said you were executed. They said you were guilty." She wiped her eyes. "But you weren't." "No." "How? How did you survive?" Ethan reached down, rubbed Titan's ears. "I had someone who never stopped believing in me. Someone who carried the truth when I couldn't. Someone who saved my life. Your dog. My partner." Ethan met her eyes. "My family." Titan barked once, soft, approving. "What's your father's name?" Ethan asked. The woman took a breath. "Thomas Reynolds, Lieutenant Commander, SEAL Team 6. Ethan nodded slowly. "Then let's get to work." He stood, walked to his desk, began pulling files. Behind him, Titan settled at the young woman's feet, his mission continuing, his purpose unending, his loyalty eternal. 1 year after Ethan's exoneration, James Marsh and David Chen were posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. The ceremony was held at Arlington National Cemetery. Thousands attended, including every surviving member of their SEAL team, including Rachel Marsh, including Ethan Cole, and Titan. The old German shepherd sat at attention throughout the ceremony. His ears perked, his eyes forward, a soldier honoring fallen brothers. When the final salute was fired, Ethan knelt beside his partner. "They would be proud of you, boy," he whispered. Titan leaned into his chest, released a soft, tired sigh. The sigh of a warrior who had finally completed his mission. That night, Ethan sat on the porch of his new home. Titan lay beside him, his breathing slow, his body finally at rest. Ethan stroked his fur, watched the stars, and thought about everything that had brought them here. The betrayal, the conviction, the years of darkness, and the dog who had never stopped fighting. "Thank you," Ethan whispered, "for everything." Titan's tail thumped once. His eyes opened, met Ethan's, and in that gaze, Ethan saw everything. 12 years of partnership, 4 years of separation, a lifetime of loyalty. "Where you go, I go," Ethan said softly. Titan's tail thumped again. Then his eyes closed. And for the first time since that terrible night in Afghanistan, both of them slept peacefully. No nightmares, no fears, no regrets. Just two warriors, finally home, finally at peace, finally free. His last wish before execution had been to see his dog one final time. That wish didn't just save his life. It exposed a conspiracy, destroyed a network of traitors, and reminded the world of a truth that could never be buried. That loyalty is stronger than lies. That courage is stronger than corruption. That the bond between a man and his dog can change everything. Ethan Cole was supposed to die that morning. Instead, he lived. Because his dog never forgot. His dog never gave up. His dog never stopped believing. And that was all the truth needed. One faithful heart, one unwavering soul, one dog named Titan who carried justice in his memory and delivered it when the world needed it most.